Okay. Thank you so much for signing in for today's Idea Fund with our TIFF partners. I'm Ashley DeHoyes with Diverse Works. I'm here with all of our partners, and we're excited to welcome you and to introduce round 15 information and applications. So go ahead and allow the TIFF partners to introduce themselves. Sydney, do you want to?
Yes, thank you, Ashley. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I am Sydney Garrett. I'm with Project Row Houses, and I am the curatorial assistant and arts coordinator at Project Row Houses specifically. And I'll go ahead and pass it to Mary.
Hello, thanks for joining. My name's Mary. I'm the curator at Aurora Picture Show. And last but not least, Lisa.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, all. I'm Lisa Guevara. I'm actually the round 15 Idea Fund intern.
Yeah. So we're excited to welcome you. We know that there's a lot going on right now, especially here in Houston and storm preparations. So thank you for all joining us. As Lisa has put in the chat, this video will be archived on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. So if you do have to leave or if connection fails, then we will be able to get this to you later this week. We also captured everybody's email prior to with registration. So we'll send out a follow-up with the link as well. So now we're gonna pass it to Sydney, who is going to lead us in a land acknowledgement, and then we'll hand it over to Mary, who is gonna lead our info session today.
Great, thank you, Ashley. We believe that truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection, and we would like to acknowledge that our offices are located on the ancestral lands of Atakapau Ishak and Karankawa people, and recognize the Native peoples that share the Southeast Texas region, including Como Cruz, Tonkawa, and Coahuiltecans. We acknowledge this land as occupied, unceded territory and pay tribute to them. We honor their elders, past and present, as well as future generations. For those of you who would like to do the same, please introduce yourself and make your own land acknowledgement in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney.
Thanks, Sydney. So I'm going to be leading this workshop today, but our partners are here and everyone will be participating in the Q&A afterwards. But I'm going to share my screen and take you through this. Give me just a second. Oh, whoops, sorry. I did it the wrong way, sorry. That's what I want. Okay, much better. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Idea Fund, we are a organization or a program that provides grants to individual artists or collectives in the greater Houston area. Our grants support innovative, experimental, public-facing visual arts projects that expand our understanding of how art exists in the world, address community needs, or exemplify new ways of working in, for, and with the community. The Idea Fund is comprised of 3 partners. It's Diverse Works, Project Row Houses, and Aurora Picture Show. We are supported by the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts. This is now our 15th round, and we started this grant because the Warhol Foundation was beginning to look around the country and seeing that there was lots of really cool, exciting projects going around, and they wanted to give money to artists. And so this we are one of a whole cohort of different regranting organizations across the country. In the past, the Idea Fund has supported 65 artists as part of our COVID relief fund. That was around 13. We've also given 146 projects with over 493 artists and artist collectives funding for their projects. And we reach out to communities within the greater Houston area and the now 9 surrounding counties. Our timeline is that the application launched and the application deadline is on November 15th. Our jury will be reviewing the applications in December, and we will make the award notifications in early January. We'll have our award reception in February, and everybody who receives a grant has 1 year to fulfill their project, and their final reports are due in the following December. We have these 3 info sessions. One is today, another one is October 14th, and the third one is November 6th. So who can apply to this grant? We fund individual artists, artist curators, collectors, and collaborators. The only requirement is that if you're applying as a group, that your lead person needs to reside in one of our following counties: Austin, Brazoria, Chambers, Fort Bend, Galveston, Harris, Liberty, Montgomery, or Waller. Let's see, we all past TIF grant and TIF emergency relief grants recipients are eligible to apply for this next round 15. We're looking for work that is innovative and that approaches our urgent questions of the moment and that can create impact on community. Ineligible projects, you cannot apply for this grant if you are a 501c3 organization. You also cannot apply if the lead artist lives outside of one of the 9 eligible counties, and can apply if everybody lives outside the 9 eligible counties. Your project has to have a public component. So if it has no public component to it, then it makes it ineligible. This means projects that have no public process, production, presentation, either online or in person, and projects that do not exemplify innovative practices in contemporary art. So what will be funded? It's very broad what we fund. We're looking for work that is based in visual art, work that's very innovative, work that works with communities, and that can be work in so many different mediums. It's very broad. It can be painting, drawing, sculpture, social practice, performance, film, new media, photography, interdisciplinary. It can be all different mishmash of things. It really just kind of depends on what your idea is. So some examples of past Idea Fund projects are, let me switch over to the website. Okay, so if you want to see some examples of past Idea Fund projects.
Mary, can you reshare your screen? It's only showing your presentation.
There, can you see it now? Oh, is it still? No, no, it's not showing the website.
No, it shows Instagram, but it only shows in a specific square. So I don't know.
This. Yeah, let me stop. There we go. Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay. So if you go onto our website, you will see here past grant recipients, and all of the past recipients have information here, and you can see we go all the way back to 2009. If you want to click on these, you can see some really great projects that have been funded in the past. So in 2021, did the same funding structure that we're doing this year, which is 12 awards for $5,000 each. And you can click on any of these and see descriptions on those projects. There we go. So this is Bria Lauren, and her project was God Was Made for Her, and it's an ode to Blackhood women and in Texas and Louisiana. You can also click on her website if you want to see more about that. There's also you can go through all of these, but I pulled up some here just to show some examples. This was Civic TV Presents 9, and what they ended up doing was they had, because of COVID, they did a virtual walkthrough of their exhibition. And so you can go through their website and see the artwork that they showed as an exhibition. This was a curatorial project with Civic TV. Let's see. My computer's being slow. There we go. This is an Instagram page for the project Rising Tide Projects, and this was in Galveston, and this was an exhibition that they had set up there. This is the Bayou Art Bayoutorium, which is a project that Henry Sanchez was the lead artist on. And you can see his website has lots of information about this project and the work that he was doing along the bayou in relationship to this project. That was a social practice bio art project. And this is the website for Detention Nation. This was a project, a group project. Delilah Montoya was the lead artist on, and their website has lots of information about this, and so you can click on this and see. But it was an exhibition that had photography and sculpture and installation. And okay, so, and if you want, you can also go to our let's see, our Instagram page, where we have, come on, there it is. We also post information about projects and updates about the application. So here you see, this was some information about Pamela Council, who made this fountain that was had this red soda coming out of it. That was called Red Drink Blacksodermy Juneteenth offering. It was in 2018. Okay. So you can see there's a wide range of projects, and they can range from exhibitions to community-based projects to all different kinds of things, and it can take form in all different kinds of visual arts. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Here. Okay. So how do you apply the application? We try to make really simple and relatively painless. They're all done through Submittable. The application requires that you have a project summary and description, your resume, CV, a budget, and your work samples. So we do this through Submittable. It's a free application. And if you click here on Submittable, then this will bring you to our Submittable page. On here, you'll see our information again, which is that we provide 12 grants, $5,000 each, to individual artists and collectives in the greater Houston area. The deadline for this is November 15th at 11:59 p.m. This is a non-negotiable deadline. If you miss the deadline, then there's not much we can do about that because it's done through Submittable. And so we always encourage everybody to not wait until the last minute and to get their applications in ahead of time, because tropical storms can happen, electricity can go down, things can get bottlenecked on your computer. Give yourself enough time and turn it in before the deadline. So not at 11:58 p.m. because if you do it at 11:58 p.m. on November 15th, probably something will go wrong. So please get it in a little before that. Again, we went through this. The grant amount is $5,000. These are the counties again. Those are the info sessions that we're having again. And let's see, we're going to go through here now to the actual application. So here's where you would put in your artist or group name. And so if you're doing a collective, maybe you and your friend are making a project together, and you could call it the Pillow Project is your group name. But I'm going to say that I'm the lead artist. And I put in my information here. Okay, put in my phone number, blah, 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 my address. Okay, so you put in all that. Put in which county you live in. I live in Harris County. If you've been awarded, a lot of these next questions are just kind of for our information. If you've been awarded the Idea Fund grant before, I'll say no. If yes, when. And that will have no bearing on your application. Again, it's just for our information gathering. If no, how many times before? I apply every year. How did you find out about it? Let's say past grantee. Okay. And then this is just demographic information. So you would put in your information here. You can also say I prefer not to answer if you don't want to. And so we'll do that. Okay. Same with this art practice and discipline. This is just to give an idea of where people are coming from. So I'll say visual art and installation and multimedia. Okay, so then you get to your bio. You have 500 words. This is where you put in your information about yourself. You know, I'm a visual artist and I've been working for so many years, and my work addresses ideas about pillows or whatever it is. If you're working as a collective, then you would here put in your collective bio. If it is a new collective and you haven't done work together before, then I would do just maybe 250 words for one person and 250 words for another person. You can split it up. Here's where you put your resume or CV, and you put in a PDF or a Word document. You can put these, you can put in up to 5 files to attach here. So you have to put one in for the lead artist. So I would put one in for myself. Again, if my collective has done enough work together where we have a combined CV, then we would put that. But if we're new collective, then I would put myself and my partners. Link to your website. This would be for the lead person. Your project title. We'll call this Dreaming Together. And my project summary. So this is 150 words or less. This is supposed to be short and sweet. This is your elevator pitch. This is where you say, this is an interdisciplinary performance-based project about the subconscious and dreaming. Okay, that would be your elevator pitch. It's really short and succinct and just is like your catch, right? Then your longer description, this is where you get into the meat of it. This is 550 words or less. We want to know the who, the what, the when, the where, the how. So think about answering all those questions, because as the jurors are reading these, you want to get them hooked with your little elevator pitch, right? But then you want to, in your longer project description, this is where you want to really get them invested in what it is. You want to explain why this project is important to you. You want to let them know who you are, why you want to do this project, what makes this project special, what makes this project distinct in terms of what it means to Houston, what it means to your community, what it means to you as an artist, what's your vision for the project, and importantly, how will it be shared? So how is this going to be presented? Because remember, the public presentation of the Idea Fund project is very important to your fulfillment of this project. Okay, so then you have your goal. What's the goal? What impact will your project have on communities and audiences? This kind of ties in with the why are you doing this? What is the goal of your project? This is just a short thing. It's 200 words, so it's just meant to be also very short and succinct explanation of what is the goal. How does your project relate to contemporary visual art? So this is a place for the jurors to understand how your project and how you connect to contemporary visual art. These are supposed to be visual art projects. And so we want to know how you see it connecting to it. A way to do that might be to connect with some people who have been influences to you, or people who you see as working similar to yourself. Or you could talk about maybe there's some theories that you identify with. So it's a way for you to kind of connect your project to being a visual arts project. So then you get into the budget, and this is usually the place where a lot of people have questions. So here we have for you, you can submit a PDF, a Word document, or an Excel document. This is where you're going to upload your information. We give you a sample budget that you can use, or if you don't want to, you can submit your own also. But this is a really great budget template because it gives you an idea of some things to think about and some ways to organize it. So you can click on here and download it, which I have already done. And here it is. So up here, you can put your project title. Again, this is just a template. You can switch this around. You can change things because everybody's project is going to be different, have different things going on. So number one, we want you to pay yourself. Artists should be paid, and so we want to make sure that you pay yourself. So please, if you're using our budget template or making your own, please make sure to pay yourself. This is typically in the range of a 20-30%, depends on what your budget is. So, you would put in your amount. You see that there's two columns here, that one is for cash and one is for in-kind. In-kind also means donation. So for my expenses, I would put in my my artist fee here. Maybe I'm going to have, maybe I don't have housing, but I do have ground transportation. So, I would put in, if that's going to be cash, maybe somebody's going to donate their housing. So I would put that amount in here. And so if you did your, let's say your art, you're going to put in your artist fee as $1,000. Okay. And then I'll put in travel. I'll put in as another, let's see, I'm going to say that I'm not going to have any travel or housing or ground transportation. I'm just going to leave it as just my artist fee up there. Then I'm going to come down here to my other expenses that could include materials, labor, equipment, venue rental fee. So I'm going to say that I have, I'm going to need a venue. I'm going to say that's going to be $1,000. And I'm going to say I'm going to have materials, and that's going to be $1,000. But maybe my equipment is going to be a donation, an in-kind donation, and so we'll say $1,000. Just keep things simple. So you see that this is tallying up my amount here really nicely for me. And also down here, it's showing me that my cash expense is $3,000 and my in-kind expense is $1,000, giving me $4,000. Okay. And that's also pulling down here. So I'm at $4,000 right now. I'm going to say I'm going to do web and media for I'll say $500, and then I'm going to put in documentation at $500. Okay, whoops, not 5,000, 500. There we go. Okay, so now I'm at $5,000, and so now here is where I would say that my Idea Fund grant is going to be $5,000. Okay, and so this catch up with me. Okay, so I guess it didn't come over. $1,000. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now you see my two numbers don't match. So I've got 6,000 and 5,000. The goal is that you want these two numbers to match. Okay, so so if your income's not matching up, then maybe I'm going to just take this off for simplicity there, and then I've got a matching amount. So my expenses go. So maybe I'm all over. I'll put in my my equipment here at 1,000. There we go. So now they match, and it doesn't have to be just 5,000. If your project is bigger and maybe your project is like $10,000, then if your expenses are $10,000, then maybe you're going to apply for other grants, or maybe you're going to ask for cash donations, or maybe you're going to have ticket sales. And so you can put all those in here, and those would then add in, and so you can keep it balanced. But the idea is to have your expenses and your income balanced so that it makes sense where the money is coming and going from. So then you would save that, and then you would upload that. Oops. No, poop. Let me go back here. Okay. So then you would save that, and you're going to upload it here by choosing your file. And then this might be a good place for you to, this is an optional thing for you to input any information that you might have that might be like red flags or questions that somebody might have. Like if I'm like, well, I need to buy, $500 worth of feathers, then maybe you might want to explain why that is here in your project budget area. So, or maybe you want to have like an increased, maybe your artist fees are higher, and so you need to explain why that is. This is an area for you to explain things that where the jurors might be like, what? Why is that? So that's just an optional section. For your work samples, here you can put up 5 work samples. This is the same deal as with your bio. If you've worked together, then you should include work that you have done together in the past. If you have not worked together in the past, if you're working as a collaborative thing, then you would say like maybe 2 for you and 2 for your collaborator, and then maybe the third one could be a mock-up, or a way for people to envision what the project might look like. If you're doing just as an individual artist, then take all 5 of your work samples and include things. You can submit the 5 images. Those can be PDF or Microsoft Word document or JPEG or an MP3. Maybe you're a sound artist and you want to upload your sound work. You can also submit 1 Vimeo link. And that's 3 minutes of video. And really the jurors aren't going to watch more than 3 minutes. So it's best to keep it to 3 minutes. If you do that, you can put multiple pieces within a 3-minute clip. If you do something like that, then I encourage you to put title cards in so that the jurors know what they're looking at. So, excerpt of video X, with the date, and then the next one, excerpt of video Y and the date. So then they know what they're looking at. And then last but not least is the work sample description. So this is where you're going to upload a short description of your work samples. And this is super helpful because there's been lots of times when the jurors will be like, I don't know what we're looking at. And so then you can go to the work sample descriptions and see, oh, this was a performance, or, oh, this is a music video. And this is another place for you to kind of talk about your work, talk about the ideas, and have a little bit explanation about your past work, because your past work is going to inform the project that you're working on. So being able for the jurors to be able to understand what you've done in the past and what it's about is really important. And then that's it. It's really simple. Then you just hit click to submit, or you can do save drafts, which is great because you can come back and work on it. You don't have to feel like you have to do it all at once. You can come back and work on it multiple times. So it's basically your bio, your resume, website, project summary, the short summary, the long description, the goals of the project, how does it relate to contemporary art, your budget, and your project work samples. Okay, so I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Here. Oops. Okay, so here are some tips. So when you're working on your project summary and description, remember to keep it simple. Please do not use heavy art speak. We've all read all those books, but it doesn't help somebody understand what your project's about. So keep it simple. Give the who, the what, the when, the why. What are the core ideas and lines of inquiry behind those thoughts? Why do you want to do the project? Why is it important to you? Why is it urgent to the city, to the community? Tell us what your vision is. How is it physically going to be presented? I've seen so many applications where they forget to say like how it physically is going to be presented. And so the jurors are left wondering like, well, I don't really get what it is because they didn't say how it's going to be presented or what it physically is. So don't get so wrapped up in the idea that you forget to talk about like how it's actually going to come to be, and who's your audience as well. For your budget, be detailed and realistic. If you have additional funding, maybe you want to apply for a Let Creativity Happen grant through HAA, then you can put that in there. For that, you would say that it's a anticipated funding. If you have additional funding that's coming into play, then be sure to put that in there. If not, then that's okay too. Share your money research. So what's your decision on, say you're putting $500 in for materials? That goes back to my feather example, right? So why does it cost so much for those feathers? Or, like how did you come to that amount? And again, pay yourself. So anywhere between 20 to 35% for your intellectual labor. Very important. Tips for your work samples. Your work samples may include, but they don't have to, but they might include a combination of these: mock-ups, past work, new work, and video. And again, use that description sheet to give additional information. So some frequently asked questions. What types of projects are eligible for funding? The jurors will be looking at the artistic and creative strength of the proposed project, the overall vision of the project, the capacity to realize the project. So if you say that you're applying for an Idea Fund grant for $5,000 and your budget is $100,000. Well, that's going to tell the jurors that you don't have the capacity to finish, to realize the project, because $5,000 is going to be so tiny in a $100,000 budget. So think about, what your capacity to actually realize the project. If you make something so grandiose, then will you actually finish it? That might be a red flag. Accessibility of the resulting project to the public. So this is what I was talking about earlier. It needs to be in person or online. It needs to be a project or program. There has to be some, and that can be, it could be, if you're doing a proposal for an exhibition, it could be an opening. If you're doing a project that is a performance, maybe it's going to be an online performance, and that's fine too. If it is, maybe it's a social practice project that includes some community work and then a presentation of the resulting community work. That could be either online or in person. So you need to think about what that accessibility is. And the commitment to serving a local community. So you want to make sure that there is some kind of community involvement with your project and some way that you're engaging community with it. In light of COVID, we ask that all projects adhere to COVID-19 safety precautions and restrictions to ensure the health and safety of everyone. And we give those information to you from the Texas Department of Health and the Houston Mayor's Office. So we talked a little bit about this. What are some past projects that or ideas that have been funded? So here's some specific types of work. So it can be individual, collective, temporary association of artists, temporary or permanent artist-run space, curatorial projects, exhibition with a strong public component, publications that include creative writing, printed matter, online publications, a public event, performance, or intervention, a screening, lecture, or workshop series, site-specific installations, web-based projects, audio, video, photo projects, online, virtual, social practice, and community events. If we have already received an Idea Fund, can we reapply? Yes. Everyone can apply, whether you have received an emergency relief grant or a past Idea Fund grant. You can apply this year for round 15. What's the review process and selection? Let's see, we already talked about this. But the jurors, we have 3 jurors. One juror is a past Idea Fund recipient, so somebody from Houston who has received an Idea Fund award before. We work with also somebody from another regranting organization. So remember I said there were all these different regranting organizations that Warhol funds throughout the country. We ask one of those partners to come in and be a juror. And then we have a national person who is involved in the arts in some capacity, typically as a writer, critic, or curator, or artist. How many project proposals can I submit? As many as you like. But keep in mind that if a juror sees you submit 5 project proposals, they might think, this person doesn't know what they want to do. So while you can submit as many as you like, I encourage you to keep it focused and understand that the likelihood of you receiving more than one grant is not very high. Do you offer application reviews before submitting? Yes, we do. You can go on to Calendly through our website and sign up for some feedback. And that's a really great thing to do, especially if it's perhaps your first time applying for a grant. you can get another set of eyes on this grant, which I also always encourage people as they're working on their grant to read their grant out loud, see if it makes sense, and ask a friend who doesn't know what your grant's about to read it and say, can you visualize this? Can you see what this project is? And if they're like, no, then you know that you need to go back and work on it some more. It's a really great way to have somebody who doesn't know anything about it give you some feedback and tell you what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Okay, so now we're on to the Q&A section. So I'll stop sharing my screen and we can move on to questions. If you have questions, you can drop them into the chat or you can raise your hand. Looks like
It looks like, Mary, that we have a question that was sent in the chat about the benefits of applying. So not in the chat, but the Q&A benefits about applying to Idea Fund. That, you know, what's the value of spending time on an application, you know, knowing that it's such a competitive process. If you don't get it, like what are some of the things that they should consider?
well, it's always helpful to apply for grants. For one thing, you're putting your words on paper and you're fleshing through ideas. So it's a benefit to your working process to kind of put that stuff on paper and be like, okay, like what is the who, the what, the why, the when, the where, and the how. And then, you know, that information you can, if you don't get an Idea Fund grant, you could use that same information to apply for other grants. So maybe you're going to apply for a Let Creativity Happen grant or an individual artist grant. Maybe you're going to go for like a bigger grant, like Creative Capital or something that is more intensive. And this would be a great way for you to kind of get that legwork done. Anytime you're going to be writing about your work, it's always really helpful because it just helps get through that process of thinking what is your work about and what is it that you're trying to communicate. So it's a benefit for that. You know, and if you are awarded an Idea Fund grant, it's a benefit, well, for one, because you get the money, but two, we also help spread the word about your work, and you are then involved in our network of artists, and we exchange information and work together, and we help with as much as we can help with. So there's benefits, of course, if you receive it, but there are also benefits if you don't. And you can also ask any of the Idea Fund partners for feedback from your application. I know Ashley has been very generous in doing that for people in the past, and so that's something that we offer to anyone as well.
Yeah, and I think the second part to that question was like, will certain artists or panelists do the work? Yes. So the way that our jury process works is we have a kind of a 2-round process or multiple round process where our jurors get all of the applications that are eligible. And so we go back and do that eligibility screening, making sure that you're not a nonprofit. You can partner with nonprofits, but you can't, as a lead artist, be applying on behalf of like you're a nonprofit, where it's like if I couldn't apply for diverse works. And so we check eligibility, and then we send all of the applications to our jurors for a first round review, and they make comments. Sometimes they don't, it just depends. But so all of our jurors see your work prior to getting to our final round, when we narrow it down to our top 12. So yeah.
So somebody asked, is there a theme for round 15? No, we never work with themes. So it's no theme. We are applying as a collective of 2 in support of an existing project. Should we build a collective bio or include individual bios for each of us? That depends if you have worked together in the past. So if you have a history of being a collective of 2, then I would create a bio that speaks to that. If you don't have a history of working together, then I would split your bio time up, one part for one, and the other part for the other. You have 500 words. So, if this is a new project I'm working on and only have 1 to 2 images to share currently, how would I proceed with sharing my visual work in an application? Or will I not be eligible as an applicant? So you should show past work. Your past work helps demonstrate your capacity. And so if you show your past work, and maybe your past work isn't so relevant to this new project, just explain that in your description and say, this past work was a 20 by 20 painting, and now I'm applying to do a social practice project. But you could make some connections between them by saying, you can see that some of the topics relate, or this was an early expression and now I'm interested in changing and challenging myself with something new. So that's where that project description area helps a lot. So showing your past work demonstrates your capacity. So even if it's not a direct connection to your project, it's still good to include all those images. Utilize all the images, never leave blank images.
And if you don't have images like that mock-up, like if you're designing an installation, or if they're like, you also don't have to show just visual images. Like if there's something that you've written about your work that may help tie the threads together, or that there's some type of like sound or video component, like those all are helpful for a well-rounded application.
What are some things that individual artists can do to make their projects as appealing as the projects offered by collectives or groups who have more artists to contribute? Well, I think, if you're applying as an individual or as a collective, collectives don't have immediate strength. We fund a lot of individual artists. We get a lot of collectives that apply too, but one is not better than the other, and one is not more appealing than the other. It's just, what is your idea for your project? So what's going to make you appealing is what your project's about and how you communicate what your project's about and how passionate you are about your project, not whether or not you have 10 people or one person.
I think for this question, I would also like to reiterate to, if it's interesting, or if you're interested in application feedback, definitely make an appointment through that Calendly link. I think Lisa put it in the chat for us earlier, but definitely make an appointment and chat with Ashley, chat with Lisa, or email us, and we will be happy to give you feedback on your application.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the past work that's been awarded, you'll see the majority of it are individual artists. The collectives are the minority. So, is there a preference for more edgy, forward, avant-garde approaches, or is the aesthetic component just as if not more important? We're looking for innovative work. We're looking for work that is pushing boundaries. We're looking for new and different work. If you are a landscape painter and you want to have an exhibition of your paintings, that's awesome, but that is not what the kind of work that the Idea Fund is looking for. We're looking for work that is trying out new things and working with community and being inventive in how you're approaching contemporary art.
Yeah, it's a lot of like going back to the jury requirements that we shared in the presentation. Those are also on our website, so you can always refer back to them. as a guiding principle for application. But in terms of, I mean, everybody, like in terms of the word art, like there is no capital art versus lowercase art. Like we're really open to see who the applies, and we're always excited about the types of applications that we get. You can look at our past applicants and see, as the years have gone by, like who's applying, what types of projects they're applying with. It gives you a really good foundation about like kind of what is funded. But yeah, so there's not really like one specific style that we're looking for.
So then how important is social audience impact? Hot money is ruled by tourism. How is this rubric different? So the having a public presentation is a key factor in a successful application, and having some kind of community involvement is also a key factor in a successful application. It's different than the hot money that HAA asks about, because we're not asking for like specific numbers on audience or specific kind of impact. Whether your impact is impactful, for 5 people or 500, that's not as important to us as it being an innovative and interesting project.
Yeah, when we're asking about the community impacts or the public component, it's just so that the work has, the way in which that we're funded by the Andy Warhol Foundation. So one, it's private funding, it's not city funding. And so there is different, like, there's different things that we are able, not able, but we're interested in asking. And so really for us, it is rooted in understanding like how your application is going to move the city forward, and like what, your ideas that you're bringing and questioning right now. The other thing about that is that with the community component or public component, where our jurors are, especially our local and our regional or national level, they're always looking at how artists are also working with their community. So demonstrating that if you're doing a project that has sensitive subject matter, or that is going to be working with a specific population, like including in your project description that you have a history working with them, or that you are aware that you may have to bring in someone that's an expertise, and having either them on your as a collective member, or included as a fee that you're paying out for your artist and your budget, or someone like to show that you have that history, or that you're making those connections, if that makes sense.
Okay, so the next question is, I'm applying with a partner for a new project. We do not have a history of working together, and we do not have any examples of work that we have made of this nature, social practice, curatorial, project based, outside of administrative work that we've performed as cultural workers in the community. We do each have our own artistic practices. So how would you advise that we present our project and our work examples, just based on this bit of information I've given here? We obviously will be in touch for an application review, but curious to get some quick insights before we begin the process. I think it would depend on what your project proposal is, I guess. But I think I would take maybe using the one of the 5 images as a making a mock-up might be a good way to address that, and then including past examples. If you're including past examples as a curator or as an artist, just explain that in the description sheet. It kind of depends on what your project is, so it's a little hard to answer that specifically. I don't know, Ashley, I'll lob that to you.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, obviously it sounds like there's like this potential applicant has like history. So you can share individual work assignment or like work examples, and then you could try to do a mock-up. You could also address in your project proposal if this is something that you've just started, building. Like a lot of our applicants, when they do apply as a new collective, it's sometimes they're created because of the idea fund. And so you can address that. Like this is created, specifically we're applying for funding because of what, we're interested in, and why we're interested in the idea fund, and this will help us get to the next phase. And including that and giving, because you have to remember that the jurors that are reviewing your applications don't know any of you. The only representation that they get of you is their application. So that's why we ask you to include the who, what, when, where, why. We give you, room for project description and bio. So when you're filling out your application, the best advice that I could give is to really think about who is reading that. Like it's someone that doesn't know you. So trying to give them a little bit of information so that they can kind of make the connections and understand where you're coming from is really helpful. Also too, just as we're talking about this, the jurors, about past conversations with the jurors, like it's not good if you're copying and pasting. So like if your project description and your like elevator pitch are very similar, then like it makes it hard to read in the application. Like the application should flow and shouldn't just be like the same material repeated over and over again.
Somebody says, so you're looking mainly for an impactful idea. It's not so kind of cookie cutter. That's why this grant is so cool, because it is broad and the jurors are different every year and what they're looking for. So, some jurors might be really drawn to an idea, and, a different group of people are going to like something else. It's not that like, it needs to have box checked off. It's really about you applying with an idea that you care about. And then, the jurors kind of evaluating how they see all this coming together and how they interpret your application. So, impactful, yes. Innovative, yes. Whatever medium it could be is up to you. Different communities, that's up to you. So it really kind of depends on your project and what you want to do.
Yeah, and kind of to add on to that too, we do not want you to change or cater your application to who the jurors may or may not be, not even based on like past applicants. Use those as examples, of course, but please stay true to your idea, and just be very detailed and descriptive. But yeah, there's no need to change anything about your application because, oh, you've seen this on our website and this past person did it, or oh, this was a juror last year, so maybe someone like that will jury this year. We just want you to be honest and detailed.
Okay, if awarded the grant, can our project shift slightly from the original proposal? Are there limits to how much the project can change and evolve? Yeah, no, it's totally fine, because most projects will change and evolve, and that's usually a good thing if they change and evolve. So we're totally fine with that. We just ask that you stay in communication with us. Ashley does the majority of the communications with the artists. And so she's constantly asking for updates, and we do quarterly check-ins. And so those are times when you can say like, oh yeah, my project idea has changed, or the location for it's changed, or during COVID, like everything changed. So everybody's projects went like all different crazy directions. So that's totally fine and expected.
Yeah, the second part to that is, as Mary said, that we usually give artists a year. So like if you're awarded for round 15, it's a 2022 grant cycle. So your projects, it's there's a deadline of December 2022. However, if you need an extension, like usually we're more than welcome to talk with you and sit down and evaluate your project and like what direction you're going in, to see how we can offer support further beyond that year in terms of the timeline. And then when you submit your final report, when your project is done, it's usually like a 2-page report paper, and you can explain all the shifts in your project. Like you started with this idea, but then, COVID happened. And so we had to adjust, adapt, or maybe, something else happened, and or you met a different partner and your project took a different direction. So you just include that information with your final kind of budget items. And we submit that with our reports to the Warhol Foundation.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? No?
I think these were really great questions for our first info session. We will have another info session in October, but feel free to reach out to us either through our website at theideafund.org, Instagram at the Idea Fund, or email, which is info@theideafund.org. If you're interested in setting up a application review or application questions, then please feel free to do that. We're doing them right now, Mondays and Wednesdays between, I think, 12 and 2, or by appointment. And that will be happening with me and Lisa. So feel free to reach out. Mary, any closing words?
No, get your applications in before 11:59. Have somebody read it. Have fun with it, and we'll look forward to seeing your applications.
Good luck, everybody. We look forward to seeing your work.
Bye, everyone.